Hello everyone, welcome back to FFGLive. My name's Evan Johnson, and as you can tell, we have a very special episode of KeyForge here today for you. I'm joined by you two gentlemen. Would you just real quickly introduce yourselves? I'm sure you need no introductions.
I'm Richard Garfield, designer of KeyForge and some other games.
Fantastic, and I'm Alex Watkins. I look after the organized play team here, and so that's why I've come along to talk about some stuff with KeyForge.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about a lot of organized play stuff today, but we're just going to get right into it first by talking a little bit about KeyForge in general with you, Richard, since it's very special to have you here with us. So we're now 2 sets into KeyForge, and the third set, Worlds Collide, is kind of on the horizon, right? It's rapidly approaching. What have you really enjoyed the most about watching the game as it grows?
Well, it was really exciting seeing it find an audience so quickly. That surprised me because even though my intuition was that this was a powerful idea we were working with, our playtest groups did not respond that way. Our playtest groups, we had like 100, and they were all many of them were focused on trading card games, and they would see the KeyForge and say, well, why would we be interested in a trading card game where there's no deck construction? Because those groups are so heavily selected for wanting to make decks. To FFG's credit, they stuck through despite the fact that there was not a lot of enthusiasm among the playtesters. And it was really nice to see when the game hit that almost immediately there were people who were like, that's exactly what I want. So that's been a lot of fun to see that sort of response.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be gratifying to see your idea kind of, born out and brought to life.
Yeah, well, I love in just regular trading card games playing whatever deck is in front of me and doing as best I can. So seeing a game which is all built all around that in the form of KeyForge has been terrific for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Has the game kind of surprised you in any of the ways that it has evolved or changed over these 2 sets?
Well, there's been lots of surprise.
Yeah.
It's been surprising to me often, how much how many decks some people get, like that they keep getting pleasure from getting more decks, and then how much play value other people get out of the same deck. And it's been interesting to me seeing the tech of the play go, get really understood. In playtest, it was really hard because people were bringing so much baggage in from trading card games that they had trouble with KeyForge, not only because it isn't a trading card game, but because it doesn't have a lot of the same trading card game tropes and mechanics. So, for example, the whole idea of card advantage is really different in KeyForge, and it took a long time for for the best players to really understand that and figure out how to work with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that's just so crazy and special about KeyForge, being able to go to a store that's like a town over even and see something that you've never really seen before, right? It's something unmistakable. And I love being able to play a deck and not having somebody say, well, why are you playing with that card? That's a garbage card. Well, I'm playing with it because it's in my deck, and I kind of like the rest of my deck. Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, I like that card too. It's fun.
Yeah. And speaking of kind of the local store level, so we just recently announced leaderboards and weekly sealed for KeyForge. So we did recently announce it, but Alex, if someone hasn't really heard about this or missed the announcement, do you want to kind of, what is this? What's happening with that?
Absolutely. I mean, we're really keen to support our stores, our local areas where people play games. And we announced, as you said, the store leaderboard program, which is, it's made it as easy as possible for stores to run. All they need to do is carry on running their chain-bound events, and they can also now run the weekly sealed, which you also mentioned, which is focused around playing sealed play, using a lot more of the variants that are available, not just solo, which chain-bound is. And then all your amber shards that you earn at that store during those events will go onto a leaderboard at that store. So each store that opts into this program and buys the prize kit will have a display, and it will reset every month, and you have a chance to get yourself up on the prize pool. And then if you finish top 4 at the end of the month, you get one of our special alternate art decks which are coming out, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is basically a way for players to kind of rank themselves against each other. And Richard, what are your kind of thoughts on the leaderboard program? And could you weigh in on that?
Yeah, I'm always very excited about local play being promoted, and when you're constantly measuring yourself against the entire world, it's just less fun than working playing games with people who are around you, and so this is the sort of thing which I think is really good for gameplay.
Yeah, when we were saying at lunch earlier that like until these leaderboards, people could use chains and they could show off, hey, I've accumulated 7 chains in my deck, and that's cool and all, and you can score that across people around the world, but that doesn't necessarily say anything about the games you've played and your actual area you're playing in. I think that's a really powerful tool to have. I think we've actually queued up some of the art. We showed off the art for Hawk.
Yeah, the alternate art.
The alternate art, yeah. So for these first run of prizes, it's just an art switch.
Yeah, explain real quick what this means. So it's not just a card, obviously, that you sub into a deck.
Yeah, one of the challenges of doing promo cards for KeyForge is we can't really just give someone a promo card because cards belong in a deck. So what we've done is we've printed some decks especially for this kit. So the kit has 12 decks in it. There's 4 decks per month for 3 months. And the first 4 decks, as we showed in the article, have Hawk, which originally I think has him driving his carriage, but instead we've got him ripping into an artifact and destroying it and stealing amber, which is very flavor-wise for the actual card and the mechanic. And you have 2 more promo cards, and I don't think we've actually decided which one's going to be month 2 and which is month 3 yet.
Yeah.
But we have Axiom of Grisk, which is a Saurian card, where the art is quite nice originally, but we've replaced that with a really thematic piece of art where a shield is actually being held above other Saurians who've been protected by the board wipe that's happening.
Oh yeah, so it's an incredible card.
Yeah, the card's great, and having an art that really depicts the mechanic is really cool. And then the final one is Unsuspecting Prey. Which I think has, if I remember correctly, I haven't got it in front of me, is something literally jumping out the ground now to swallow up the targets. So that's awesome. That's kind of fun. Nice to be able to play around with that.
So the prize for landing in the top 4, right, of the leaderboard is that you get one of these decks, which has at least one of these alternate art cards.
At least one, and we had some samples turn up, and the first one I opened had 3 copies of Hawk. So you could have more than one promo card. That's perfectly fine. It's still a randomly generated deck. We've just made sure it contains the card that we want to do alternate art for. And they could still contain Mavericks, Anomalies, Legacies, all those things can still be in there. So it's almost like a sub-tier of collectible decks. Like they're going to be, I'm going to be wanting some, I know that for sure. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So players, going to be able to go to their local stores and play with this stuff. As we're, moving into the Worlds Collide set, I expect a lot of people will be heading out to their local stores to play, obviously, with these new decks. Richard, with Worlds Collide, is there a particular card or set of cards in this 3rd set that you're particularly excited for?
Oh yes. No, my one of my passions in the 3rd set is procedurally generated cards, and I actually came up with this concept for how to do procedurally generated cards after the 1st set came out, and it's been this long before we managed to get some of them in. But when I always knew I wanted them there, but wasn't quite sure how to do them. Originally, in the 1st set, I counted Master of 1, 2, and 3 as being procedurally generated, but I knew that was kind of a cheat because there are really 4 different cards.
Right.
And I did some where it would give like cards each their own ability, 2 abilities from a list, but it would made it too hard to predict what sort of abilities a card would have. They didn't have enough identity for me. And then I hit upon this idea of making it so that when you get a particular card in the deck, it can change other cards in your deck. And I got really excited. So for instance, you've got the Cultural Exchange Officer in Star Alliance. And the Cultural Exchange Officer, when it's in your deck, it swaps positions with another one of your cards. So it sort of creates a Maverick. It'll go exchange, for example, itself with a giant, and that giant will now be in Star Alliance, and the Cultural Exchange Officer, that'll be in Brobnar.
So cool.
And so there's all these cards. There's a handful of these cards which, when they're in your deck, they will change other cards in your deck. And some of them, like the Brew in Brobnar, will add 2 power to another creature. And so you'll go through your creatures and you'll find a particular creature that has 2 more power than it should have. Well, that's because there's a Brew which is specifically for that creature.
That's awesome. So, I mean, it's really like, you hear people talk about like telling a story that can only be told in like a movie or only told in a video game. It's like, this is really something that only KeyForge can do.
And it took a long time to come up with this concept, and there's a lot more we can do with it. And it's we only got out a handful of the ideas so far, but there'll be more in the future. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So with Worlds Collide, also we're seeing the first house rotation of the game as the Saurians and Starlines enter, and House Sanctum and House Mars leave for now. Miss
Mars. I really liked Mars.
Yeah, I'm a Sanctum guy myself, so I'm sad to see them leave. What are kind of your thoughts on like house rotation? And how
I'm really again excited to see it happen, and excited to see how they go over, because one of the delightful things of working on KeyForge has been the fact that the houses are very different than colors in Magic, to factions in a trading card game, because the distribution within the house is the character of the house, and so that means you can make completely new characters, and you don't have to worry about color bleed because they're all distinct, and it's liberating from a design point of view that you can mix and match all these different mechanics, and still all the other houses will maintain their personality, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing how these two new houses go over, and whether they'll have the personality which we're hoping they do.
That's awesome. Well, as it so happens, you may have noticed me surreptitiously opening these decks. A few people are going to get the chance to play with these decks very shortly. So we're going to give away these two Worlds Collide decks here that Richard is actually going to sign right now. So go ahead and comment #Worlds Collide into the chat, and we're going to select two lucky winners to get these two signed, or they will each get one signed deck. So go ahead and throw in those comments.
This one is titled "The General That Trusts in Allies." So a very foolish general indeed.
A foolish general, and that's an untamed Saurian Brobnar deck. We won't have any more spoilers on what it is.
Well, talking about the procedurally generated cards, this one has one of the blasters, which is owned by Ingram. So that's kind of cool.
Sure, tied specifically to that officer.
Oh, and this one has this has already been published though, hasn't it?
Yeah, that was part of Age of Ascension, but
so
still.
Panpaka Jaga. That's I have baby twins, and Panpaka Jaga is named for my son James Garfield, and Panpaka Anga is for Antoine Garfield, his twin brother.
That's amazing. Cool. I actually didn't know the origin of the names before. Oh, so yeah, perfect. That's awesome. Okay, so as you sign these decks, we want to kind of segue into talking about the next topic, which is Worlds Collide. We just mentioned that, and it's going to be the newest set when we hit the World Championships for KeyForge next year. So, Alex, tell us a bit about the KeyForge World Championships.
So I get my first bit of new news.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not a crumble recipe. It's a World Championship announcement, which is pretty exciting. So we are going to be running our World Championships. They're going to be in May next year. We're just finalizing the details, so I can't give you the exact details. They're in the Twin City area, and it's going to be in May. So we can give you that information now, which is great. But what I want to talk about a little bit more is the structure of the event and what it's going to be like. Those who've been to Vault Tours recently, particularly the ones in Europe, will know we've been really enjoying the team side events. And we've been really enjoying watching the dynamic of how those form and how the players play and respond differently to the team events. So with that in mind, what we're going to be doing is doing team events for World Championships, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
So it'll be teams of 3.
Okay.
And only one person in the team is going to need an invite. So if you've got yourself an invite, you're going to be able to bring along 2 of your buddies, family members, whoever it might be, to form your team. Yeah. And then you're going to be a team at World Championships. So we are really excited to do that. Wow. We're going to have some really fun ways of playing, which we'll go into more detail near the time, as how it actually how each round will pan out. But yeah, that's really exciting for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Richard, what are your thoughts on kind of team events and sort of the community that those build?
I think more different formats is better, and team is great because people, even though KeyForge is head-to-head. There's a community of game players, and oftentimes they like to work together, and so the team format is great for that. So yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And what are some of the paths to get to the KeyForge World Championships?
So
how are people going to get there?
This is a question I'm asked a lot. How do I get my invites?
Yeah.
And so there are different ways to get invitations to the World Championships. The first one would be at your Prime Championships, which start later this year. And then if you win one of those, you earn yourself an invite and can bring a team. The one that's already started is the Grand Championships.
Yeah.
So anyone who finishes in the top 4 at a Grand Championship, they get an invite and they can bring a team as well. And the other way we're giving out invitations, and I've hinted a little bit, those of you who've spoken to me at events or spoken to me online about this, I've hinted a bit towards the Vault Tour leaderboard. So the Vault Tour leaderboard will be giving out invitations to the World Championships.
Yeah.
And that's not new, but we basically everyone in the top 100 will be getting an invite.
Wow.
We'll be cutting this off early next year. We'll get a date to you. Probably normally be sort of around March time, give enough lead time into the Worlds. Gives us a chance to get a few more Vault Tours in there so people can respond to this news. And if you find yourself in that top 100 at that point, then congratulations, you got an invite. Go bring some buddies along and we'll see you at the World Championships.
That's awesome. Okay, I will just quickly sidebar to close entries for the 2 Worlds Collide decks, so we can pick some winners there. To continue on the Worlds track, so there's going to be like a bunch of side events as well there. Yeah.
We're really excited about the opportunity to do unique side events. We'll have a great opportunity. We'll have developers on site, the OP team on site. So we'll be looking to mix things up, try new variants out, try new ways to play the game. Make sure everyone's having a good bit of fun. The side event's supposed to be enjoyable, right? If you've just been knocked out of the main event, we want to make sure there's something fun for you to play as well. And then so that's going to be a big bit. And also the prize wall as well.
Yeah,
We'll have some new and unique items will appear on the prize wall beyond just the Vault Tour prize walls. We have a Crucible cast episode coming up this weekend where we're showing off some of the new items coming up on the normal prize wall that goes with the Vault Tour.
Yeah.
But the World's Championship prize wall will be the beginning of something new. We'll have some items on there that are just for World Championships. That's kind of what you get for going. But we're also going to have a few event-specific prizes, which we can start taking to things that aren't Vault Tours, that aren't World Championships, so we can start spreading the prize wall further, which is also really exciting for us to step into that boundary.
Yeah. Perfect. And Richard, with Worlds Collide entering the pool of available sets in time for Worlds, what are kind of your thoughts on how that might affect the meta or affect people's choices?
I have no idea. I often like to sit back and see where people take it. Part of the joy of working on the game is that it is hard to predict how the different mixes are going to work. You know, and I feel like the play test of this is very tough. Weirdly, I never thought that it'd be something harder to play test than a trading card game, but I think this is it.
We were talking about this a bit earlier. I mean, the idea that there's so many boundaries within the power level of a set, and the perception of players kind of almost overrules any factual evidence on which one's more powerful. And we're talking about the decks that are winning Vault Tours, or we'll call it the Archons, but that doesn't necessarily mean Age of Ascension isn't a powerful set.
Yes, yeah, and of course in design, our goal is not to make it more powerful or less powerful. We want to sort of keep it in the same neighborhood, but you never know how it's going to work out. And since people are playing with these, this is the deck I'm playing with. That's okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do like about the game is that the fact that we're uncertain with a lot of the balances going out, makes it so that the players get a chance to explore that and find the broken cases themselves, and that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
I often feel like a lot of the games these days are overbalanced, that they've taken the fun out, or some percentage of the fun out in trying to get it very, very balanced, and so the craziness that we have allowed ourselves in KeyForge, I think carries through.
That's awesome. All right, well, we are just about ready to segue into our big announcement, so let's roll the trailer.
Launch into the Crucible with the VaultWarrior Tournament Series, the ultimate KeyForge competition. Starting early 2020, stores around the world will host VaultWarrior tryouts leading into the VaultWarrior qualifiers. 10 VaultWarrior qualifiers will be held in 10 cities, each with a $10,000 prize pool. Top players from each qualifier will advance to the KeyForge VaultWarrior Championship, held in Miami, Florida, with a total prize pool of $100,000. Do you have what it takes to become a Vault Warrior? Find your best deck and enter the Crucible.
Hello. Wow. Okay. So, VaultWarrior Tournament Series. So they just watched a trailer to kind of give them the nutshell, but we can go a lot more in depth with what this is.
Absolutely. Well, let's kick it off. So, VaultWarrior Series, it is a series of events. These are going to be happening all around the world, as the video showed, and it's split into 3 tiers. But what I want to do is talk about the name a little bit first, because a Vault Warrior means quite a lot in the Crucible. So a Vault Warrior is a creature or someone who spends their entire life traveling with Archons and cracking vaults to the point where they become celebrities in their own right within the Crucible. So they are known for being great at doing that job. And borderline pro athlete would be the closest thing I guess we could compare them to our world. And so when we were creating this event series, Vault Warrior stood out to me and a lot of us as a really great representative of what people can become through playing in this event series. And that's part of how we named the tournament structures that go with it. So we start off with the tryouts, and these are going to be store level events all around the world. Applications will open after this live stream goes live. If you're a store or a TO or a tournament organizer and you want to host one of these, you can apply, and we'll be considering all applications. My advice is to read every question carefully. I don't like when people miss things, and if they ask you for something and by personal opinion you don't answer the question properly, well, we're trusting you to run these events, so make sure you spend enough time reading the questions. And then once we get those out, there'll are no cash prizes at these events. These will have tournament kits
at the tryouts.
Right.
Yes.
There'll be physical prizes. We're working with some really cool stuff which we'll announce soon as well that goes in those kits. And then if you are able to win one of those tryout events, you will earn yourself a free seat to the Vault Warrior qualifiers, and the Vault Warrior qualifiers being the first tier of cash level events, the middle tier events. Yeah,
and I'll just pause you real quick right there, because cash prizes, this is the first time that we've done.
Oh yes, it's huge. Yeah.
Now, Richard, this is something that I understand that you've kind of been pushing for since the beginning, or you've wanted to have cash prize tournaments for quite a long time for KeyForge. And what are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm really excited about it. I think that serious play in games, to get serious play is a lot of fun. It's fun for me even if I'm not participating in the serious play, because it sort of validates my thinking and spending time on the game at the casual level. And so I love it when the games I'm playing are being taken seriously. And the top level play, there's really only one way to motivate that. And I think that the depth of KeyForge warrants that. There's a lot going on in it. It's a very skill testing game, even though there is a lot of craziness in it. And so I've been a big supporter of this.
Awesome. Okay, sorry. Back to the tiers. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, worth saying we have never done cash prizes for us as FFG. So to roll out a cash prize series, 10 events all around the world, is a big step for us, and we're really excited to be doing that. These events will be Archon. So we made a decision fairly early on that if we're going to go with cash, Archon is the right way to go with this game particularly. And I think we'll agree that's our right approach. We're going to be mixing up the variants that you can play those. So expect to see triad, adaptive, solo best of 3. So we're bringing in the best of 3 for the solo games to create that slightly longer, more opportunity each round as well.
Do reversal,
and we're potentially going to bring reversal in as well. That was which is one of the talking points. And I was on a podcast recently talking about it. Is is Reversal is arguably one of the more competitive variants because of the requirements of it, and we have a way to utilize that into this event series as well without it dominating the event, so that's quite exciting as well. And you play over 3 days, that's the thing, so it's going to be quite a long slog, these events. As a Friday you'll be playing with the current set, so whatever the most recent set is. So when these go live in early next year, mid next year, first quarter next year, you will be playing with Worlds Collide on that day. That'll be day one. Day two will use the previous 2 sets, so it'll be Worlds, so Age of the Archon.
That'll be all the sets then?
All the sets. So initially for the first, for the first period, all the sets will be playable, just on different days. And how well you perform on those 2 days will then take the top people onto day 2, and they'll be shooting it out for the cash prizes. And then we'll have a good fun side event, which will lead into a future qualifier as well.
And are there set limitations on which deck you can play on day 2, or is it just open?
Day 2 will generally be a choice of all the decks you brought to the event.
Perfect.
So so that's what's interesting about having Reversal in there, is because if one of the days is Reversal, you're probably not going to want to pick that one for the Sunday. But maybe you might. I mean, it depends how your strategy is on these things and what we decide the Sunday variant is as well. So we have a lot of choices we can do. The Vault Warriors will follow, the Vault Warrior qualifiers will be very similar, very same structure across all of them, but we will be able to tweak and change the variants to make them all feel a little bit unique, which is very KeyForge, and we like to do that.
And this, the Vault Warrior series, it's kind of stands apart from the rest of the organized play track, right?
And that's a good point. Something we really want to make sure people understand is that this is, what we're doing here with Vault Warrior is not replacing anything, right? This is a new event series that's going to run alongside all the stuff we're offering still. So you'll still see Store Championships, Prime Championships, Grand Championships, and Vault Tours will still all be happening. And this is also separate from the World Championships that we just spoke about. So there is a divide between the two. We are really happy with the competitive, casual environment that the Vault Tour has been creating and generating, and we want to keep that, and we will continue to offer support for those players in those series. But we also, as Richard pointed out, we want to have this serious, quote-unquote, event series where the cash drives that serious attitude, and that'll stand separate to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we're going to open it up for some Q&A here. So if you have questions for Alex or for Richard, go ahead and shoot those into the Twitch and YouTube chats. We are also setting up a forum thread in our community forums where you can ask your questions about the Vault Warrior series. If we don't get to your question right here, right now, we're going to take those questions, and there's going to be a special episode of the Crucible cast. So get them in before September 30th, so kind of these next 4 days or so. And we'll answer those in a Crucible cast next week, is the plan with that.
Well, while those questions are coming in, let's discuss the final tier of the Vault Warrior series.
Course.
The culminating event that we heard our voiceover guy say in Miami. So that will be the big $100,000 event. The winner will walk away with 25 grand. It's going to be a pretty major thing. That one is invite only, but with a twist. Like, we like to do things differently, right? This is KeyForge. So you get your invite if you finish top 32 at any of the qualifiers. So if you finish top 32 at a Vault Warrior qualifier, you have your seat at the championship. You can come along. If you haven't, and you still want to come along or travel with your buddies, the 2 days before the actual championship starts, we'll be running last chance qualifiers, and we'll be filling up extra seats from there as well. So we'll really fill the pool up from that. And we'll have, again, unique prizes, really cool things going on those 2 days before. And then what we'll actually do is we will cross the stream slightly and run a Vault Tour alongside the Vault Warrior Championship. So that if you've come all that way and you don't get in, you've still got a really cool event to play in. The prize wall will be there, because the prize wall isn't going to be at the Vault Warrior qualifiers. Right, that's part of our divide. Is the Amber Shards is for the Vault Tour track, and prize money is for the Vault Warrior. So this time at the culmination of the event, we will have both there, and the prize will be available. So if you are thinking of traveling and doing the last chance qualifier and you don't make it, but you want to be there to support your buddies and your teammates who have, you've still got plenty of events to play in and cool stuff to do as well. It'll be a real celebration of KeyForge.
Yeah. Awesome. And, we get to go to Miami. And,
no selfish choices in that.
All right. Well, I've got some questions coming in here. So this one, more for you, Richard. First, how will anomaly rares work with Worlds Collide? If there's anything that you'd care to share about that at this point.
I don't know what's public about anomalies.
We've kind of just said we haven't shared the identity of any of them, like what the exact card is, or we've shared one. But I mean, we can totally talk about how they work.
Well, first of all, the anomalies. I don't know if this has been made clear, but the anomalies are in a particular house, right?
Yes.
So they are in one of your 3 houses, I mean, people must know that they come from the future, right?
That is kind of what's been hinted at, for sure.
Yeah. So these cards will appear in future sets in their proper place, and so in fact, some of these anomalies are going to be mavericks in the sense that they're going to be in houses. They are eventually going to be in houses which don't exist yet, and so they're going to appear from the future and be shoehorned into one of your houses, and you'll look at it and say, "This does not belong in House Brobnar. You do not belong in Brobnar, but it will belong in whatever house that eventually it is published in."
Yeah.
It's really exciting that will show off potential future mechanics.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not talking about any of the other cards yet, but knowing what some of them are, it's really quite cool.
Yeah, and in fact, I've already gone through the challenge of getting some of those mechanics into future houses. So, which was sometimes challenging because the mechanics came before the house did. So,
Backwards development. Yeah.
Okay, question: are Worlds invites from Prime Championships able to be passed down?
Okay, so the way invites work when it comes to passing down is if the winner of a Prime Championship already has an invite. Okay, and this might get a little bit messy with the leaderboard, but this can happen retrospectively, right? So if a player wins a Prime Championship and then later gets to the top 100 of the Vault Tour leaderboard, the second place person can have that invite. It doesn't go further than that. It's just the top 2. It's the finalists. It's experience earned. So we don't want to be passing all the way down to like 10th, 11th, 12th. That's not the point. Is that the invite is earned. So yes, it can pass down, but only if the invite has already been won. Not just because the person can't go. Right? It has to be based on that.
For sure. For Richard, did the results of early Vault Tours and winning decks affect the design of Worlds Collide?
Yes. I mean, all the early play has impacted design going forward because we weren't sure the best way to balance this beast. And so there were certain, for example, there were certain cards like bait and switch that just dominated too much play. They became too impactful. And as I was mentioning, bait and switch was even more powerful in playtest before somebody talked me down. And so going into this, we didn't know what the right way to make balance in the game was. Whether having a card that was very powerful was okay if it was balanced by some other cards, and so early. And another way it's impacted is decks that were very slow, like the infinite recursion stuff. I don't mind that sort of thing being in the game. Again, I like wildness and lack of balance being expressed in terms of fun and play. But I don't want the games to last forever either.
Right.
At least, not as a rule. So the first time a game lasts forever, that's okay. But the second time you never get to because of the first time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Couple of people asking about the next Vault Tour in Europe and when that might be announced.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll be announcing those in the near future. We're just finalizing venue details and we'll be rolling those out. But expect to see them early next year as we announce those. So. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry to be a non-answer, but keep tuned for that one.
Yeah. Another question for you: is there any concern about splitting the player base and the possibility of infusing any toxic feelings between Warriors and Tour players?
I can understand that question. I'm not too concerned about it myself. I think there's going to be some people who are going to be, I want to play one, not the other. That's fine. Like some people are going to see this announcement like, I'm never going to that event. That's just not my scene, and that is fine. That's where we have the Vault Tour still for you if you want to play large events. And if you're just not the sort of person who wants to go to travel to large events, we have the in-store play program for you, right? We're very careful to make sure we're offering the experience for anyone who's out there. I would hope there's not going to be any animosity between the two. I'll understand that there's bound to be comparisons made between the two because they're going to be running at the same time.
This deck did here, this deck did so here.
Exactly, and again, that's fine. We will be almost encouraging sort of people to show off their impressive decks. We want people to talk about the decks. We want the players as much as the Archons themselves to become features of things that go on. So yeah, I think there will be some comparison, but to me, one is not greater than the other. They are two equal entities that are happening in our tournament scene, and will each continue to get the support that they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, a question for Richard. So using the KeyForge formula, basically, what's the max number of a single card that can appear in a deck?
As far as I know, the max number is, I suppose it could be 36. You'd have to be really lucky with a lot of Mavericks. But there's no reason why you couldn't get 12 in a particular color. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's certainly the way it was spec'd out.
Sure, but the idea is that obviously, like each doubling, there's an increasingly small percentage that you would get.
Yeah, it's like if you took a 20-sided die and you rolled it 36 times, first of all, roll it 12 times. How many times are you going to roll 0? Well, it could be all the times, but it isn't going to be.
Right.
And then you take whatever, a 500-sided die and roll it for the remainder. How many Mavericks are you going to get? But we tried to. But the point is, with the deck construction, is I have always been to a fault aggressively in favor of variety, and so I don't like to cut off, make decks impossible unless I really have to. And the reason I say to a fault is because that means that some of the garbage decks are more garbagey than they should be, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to bring up the bottom end of that, and but I really like bringing out as much variety as possible in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Will your flights be paid if you win the qualifier?
So that's interesting. We're going to be, not necessarily. So what we're going to do is we're going to be positioning the tryouts around the qualifiers. So one of the reasons we're keen to get the applications in now is we want to position them around the qualifiers, make them as close as possible. Now there will still be a global spread to them, but we will congregate some around the major events to reduce the travel costs for the winners. But that also being said is we're going to be encouraging the organizers, if they wish to sponsor or endorse or support their winner, then we'll be looking to reimburse the cost of the kit and things like that as a way of saying, okay, if you want to help fund your victor to the local qualifier, the nearest qualifier, then we'll look to reimburse your kit as a way of saying thank you for supporting your local players and your local winner. We'll put the power really in the community to help drive and do that. Then we will equally put our hand in our pocket and support each event. And there's going to be a couple of hundred of these globally, so we won't be flying every single winner from the tryouts. But you asked about qualifiers specifically to... Sorry, I answered a completely different question. But equally useful information. But the winner of the qualifier, yes, we will be taking the winner and we'll be flying those.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, sorry, that's a much easier answer.
Do we have plans for players to be able to spend Amber Shards outside of Vault Tours?
Well, currently, no. That is something we're still looking at and working on.
Right.
Part of what the leaderboard was all about for store level was to give a secondary use for Amber Shards, so outside of just to take to a prize wall. In fact, if I'd had my way early on, I guess that would have been the primary use, right? If the primary use is local to show your ranking on leaderboard, and the secondary use is prize wall. Now, we've launched them the other way around, so that's never going to be the case. That's just how it is, because that's the way we've done it. But to me, what I'm more interested in is things like leaderboards, where it gives you an alternate reason, not just to go get some cool swag, but to flex it a little bit locally or to earn some swag in a store and to power the stores that way. But yeah, we're looking into options. We're working through a few ideas, and we'll be more than happy to share it once we get to the end of those. Yeah,
absolutely. Richard, do you ever want a game mechanic, or do you have plans for such maybe in the future? Basically, a mechanic centered on the color of the keys and what you have forged.
We've talked about that, for sure, and I would bet that it's going to be there. I have not worked on it myself yet. I know that you have to go all in on that and really make it big, because if you make it so that you give a bonus, for example, for forging the red key first, then everybody's just going to forge the red key first, and that's not very interesting.
Right.
So
right.
In order to make it an interesting part of the game that really pays for itself, you've got to really to actually give choices to the player. You're going to have to do a lot with it. You can't just make a card or two that cares about it and
right.
have it be reach its potential interest. But yeah, I'm interested in it. I imagine it will be there eventually, but I don't know what it's going to be like yet.
Yeah. Will there be a place to find the schedule for these VaultWarrior events?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that people can map out their tournament
Yeah,
schedules?
yeah, absolutely. Once we've got the tryouts nailed down and we finalize the qualifier locations, then absolutely we can talk about the first qualifier locations confirmed, and that is in Bologna, Italy.
Yeah.
And that's going to be in March. I think it's around the weekend of the 20th, around that far. We'll announce that formally, I believe, in the article as well.
Sure.
That comes up. But yeah, so that's when that'll kick off the qualifier series starting in Bologna, and that'll run through till sort of August, September, and we'll be looking to run the final championship later in the year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to take a couple more questions before we close down our stream for today. Richard, do you use any sort of new technology like AI or machine learning to play test decks or assess the game balance, or is it all like manual human testing?
It's mostly manual human testing and intuition. The AI, I think that will be a good tool going forward. I did not have access to it. However, part of the problem with using it early is because you need people who are good at this sort of thing in order to get it in place in the first place, and nobody was good at it. But I did actually do some real statistical studies on the way the game worked, where I generated millions of decks with particular parameters and sort of looked at what their win percentages were. But it was more statistical, stuff which I coded on Excel, not any real AIs or anything like that.
Sure. Another question for you. So they say, I loved Age of Ascension's sets focus on more crazy combos, but it seemed like it didn't stand against Call the Archons that much. How confident do you feel about Worlds Collide kicking some butts?
Well, I'm all about the combos and being able to find ways your cards hook together in creative ways.
Yeah.
We are trying to walk the walk carefully about not making a set too powerful, because we don't want to make it so that it isn't fun to play the current set against the earlier sets, and obviously too weak either. But we're trying to keep it right, balanced in the middle. That's very hard to do, and for me, it's okay if we err a bit in the sense that I'm I like playing whatever deck's in front of me, and if it happens to be a little better, well, I'll give a few chains to my opponent, or my opponent will give a few chains to me, and we'll do fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alex, just to confirm kind of what you said, so VaultWarrior and the structure of the qualifiers, this means that when the fourth set releases, Call of the Archons will essentially be unusable in VaultWarrior tournaments.
In VaultWarrior, but only VaultWarrior.
In only VaultWarrior.
Archon as a thing will still exist. We're still very passionate about any deck can still be playable.
Yep.
The Archon format we find, all we're really doing with VaultWarrior is creating more of a challenge by defining parameters within the Archon, so that you're being rewarded for your knowledge of multiple sets.
Right.
And having too many of those kind of drains out and drags on a little bit, and so we're sticking with 3. So we'll have everything from the beginning, and as a fourth set comes along, correct, it will be the most recent and the 2 before that we'll see at the VaultWarrior qualifiers. Yeah, absolutely.
Are we ever going to see a recipe for rhubarb crumble?
I've got an idea for an episode of a Crucible cast.
Okay.
That I'm pitching to a few people. And
Crucible Kitchen.
Well, yeah, that's basically the thing. So maybe we'll do it. It's whether I can convince my wife to part ways with the recipe as the first one. So far, she's not been so willing.
Sure. That's understandable. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Thank you, Richard, for being here. Yeah. So that thread in our forums, go ahead, and that is going to be posted in the chat. boxes again here. So go ahead, and if you have questions about the VaultWarrior series or OP for KeyForge and they were not answered here, go ahead, throw your questions right in there. We're going to answer them in a special Crucible Cast episode next week.
Yeah.
Get them in before September 30th.
Definitely. We're filming on the Tuesday, so definitely get them in before the end of Monday.
Yeah, otherwise they won't be answered, obviously. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post new videos. Thank you to Carolina Game Tables for our streamer table, which we're not using today, but I said it anyways. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Join us next Tuesday, and we'll see you next time.